We had some incredible moments throughout week 2. Incredible moments. And JB, as I'm getting ready to go over to the San Antonio destination of Trinity, Texas, he's like, Frank, yeah. I've got the cold open. I've got the cold open for you.
I got it.
And I'm like, okay, it must be something really great. And this is the cold open, folks.
This is all or nothing for Lyons, and he's throwing up.
Oh, no.
Peyton Lyon just threw up as he's about to take the snap.
8 seconds left.
He is currently throwing, as he has to take the snap. Unreal scenes at Gerke Field. Lyon dropping back, and he's football balling down. They're going to win.
JB, you're just cruel. I mean, how could you do this to Peyton Lyon like this? That's just not right.
I mean, the poor guy, he was trying his best to bring his team back in the Spud Bowl of all things. He threw for almost 400 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. The guy was so sick that he just had to. It happens in football, and just the fact that the announcer sort of latched onto it. I mean, they gave him credit after the fact for hanging in there. He definitely left it all out on the field, Frank.
Ouch. You look at his stats, over 370 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions, 7 sacks. The 7 sacks, maybe the offensive line helped contribute to the puke. That just isn't a great day in the backfield. So perhaps they should be buying him dinner only after he recovers from that moment. But Peyton, listen, bud, we're sorry we brought more attention to you than you probably wanted, but at the same time, we want to take our hats off to you for being a gamer and for living up to the whole mantra of Division III football for the love of the game. Because seriously, you must love the game if you're willing to put yourself through all that at the end of the day for no scholarship at that.
Hell of an effort. Yep.
Well, listen, I almost puked on the sideline when it was 102 degrees out, 101 degrees thereabouts in San Antonio, but we all made it through. It was hot. I will suggest that there may have been something of that nature on the Mary Hardin-Baylor sideline that I almost walked in, or perhaps did. So hot weather can do that to you, no doubt, and we'll talk a lot more about that game. Maybe not the St. Norbert game anymore, but a lot of other things here. This is week 16. No, it's only week 2 of season 16 of In the Huddle. Okay, week 2, everybody, and just when you think you know what's going to be happening here in this season, things turn all kinds of wacky across the rankings and whatnot. St. John's, what the heck, against a Wisconsin Whitewater team that loses their quarterback thanks to the In the Huddle curse, apparently. Alec Ogden. It was clearly JB's fault, so I'll blame JB for this. He ended up in a sling on the sideline with his arm sometime in the first half, but they still doubled up St. John's. We'll talk more about that in crunch time. JB, that wasn't the only amazing score or unexpected development from week 2, and as always, I turn to you for your 30,000-foot view of week 2.
Yeah, well, this weekend had everything, Frank. We had lightning weather delays from multiple games across, literally all across the United States on the eastern seaboard. We had stuff happening in the mid-Atlantic, in the Northeast, Pennsylvania, everywhere. Even throughout these weather delays, whether it was on Friday or Saturday, we still were playing for Presidents and Hoffman Cups. We played for a donut trophy. There was some marquee top 25 matchups, some that went the way we thought they would, and then others that kind of surprised us, like Frank said. Overall, though, I think what we saw, and we saw some teams debut, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the show. I think some of Frank's picks seem to turn out to be right, and I got an uphill road to climb here. But hey, shout out to Whitewater for the big win. I got the Quinn Maynard's T-shirt in the back there, the belly of the beast. The Warhawks looking pretty impressive so far. There it is.
Point to it. Point to it. Yep. Well, that wasn't quite the right point, but yeah, you're close. Yeah, there. Got it. Nailed it. We'll get you
it's always
to the point where
the
yeah,
Believe Bowl too. We also had we had the Believe Bowl as well of all the the games that were happening. Lots of stuff happening. Anyway, let's go.
Yeah, I think we just got our thumbnail for. This thumbnail that we have to do for every episode. I think we just found it. Anyway, yeah, something like that. Listen, we got a lot of games to go through. 8 pages worth of script here for me, so I got a lot to talk about to you in respect of a crunch time for week number 2 of the 2023 Division III college football season. We will start in Region 1, where Framingham State faced Salve Regina on a Thursday night. And we'll start here with this great interception by Avery Arno. He gets the ball at the 23-yard line, gets it to the 21 before he just nips the out-of-bounds line. And that sets up this Ryan Jans 1-yard touchdown run. 4.5 minutes into the game, make it 7-0 Salve Regina. 1 minute left first quarter. Josh Letelier gets a 33-yard touchdown pass from Jake Stack. It's 14-0 Salve Regina. Let's fast forward into the early part of the third quarter. Watch this Terry Smith pass intercepted by Jack Zingaro, and Zingaro gets it down to the FSU 44-yard line. That would lead to a touchdown. We'll stay on defense, though, as Henry Bork is sacked here for a loss of 2 yards, and that's a safety. It's Mark Promatico with that safety, and the final score would end up being 29-0 in favor of Salve Regina. Jake Stack, 9 for 16, 101 yards, 1 passing touchdown. This Salve Regina defense, so 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble and fumble recovery, and 1 safety. That's a heck of a night on a Thursday night in Newport, Rhode Island. Let's go to Saturday now, where Ithaca faced Endicott. 3 minutes into the game, Jake Williams has this 5-yard touchdown run for Ithaca to make it 7-0 in favor of the Bombers. Second quarter, 11-12 left, and it's Anthony Caggianelli with the 1-yard touchdown run to equalize for Endicott 7-7. The halftime score would be 10-7 Endicott. We'll fast forward to the fourth quarter, 1:20 into it. It's Bridgewater getting his 10-yard touchdown pass from Clayton Merengue, making it 17-7 in favor of Endicott. That was an 18-play drive that went 95 yards for Endicott there. And in the fourth quarter, still 6 minutes later, A.J. Wingfield says we need to come back, and he tries to get his legs to do it with this 2-yard touchdown run, 17-13 in favor of Endicott. 5 minutes later, Sam Klein gets a 30-yard touchdown pass from A.J. Wingfield. It makes it 20-17 in favor of Ithaca, and that's how we would finish things, 20-17. Ithaca trailed 17-7 with 13:40 remaining. A.J. Wingfield, though, with 166 total yards, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown on the day. Let's go to our Friday evening game, actually, next. WPI at Bridgewater State. So we'll go to the second half, and we've got a lot of antics going on here. First, Hunter Carey gets a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 10-7 in favor of WPI. A minute later, not even, Adam Couch, a 64-yard touchdown pass from James Cahoon, gives Bridgewater State back the lead, 14-10. In the fourth quarter, it's 11:43 left, and John Chow gets a 3-yard touchdown run, and a 2-point conversion is no good, so it's 16-14 in favor of WPI now. And then just 16 seconds later, Isaiah Wright, the 85-yard touchdown on the kickoff return. It's 21-16 now, Bridgewater State. But WPI was not to be denied. 5:13 left. Jay Mezzo gets a 12-yard touchdown pass from Stephen McDonald to take the lead, and a 2-point conversion to boot here. 24-21 in favor of WPI, but we were not done yet. As a 4th and 9 from the WPI 11-yard line, Shane Drake's field goal attempt was blocked from 28 yards out, recovered by Gavin Chief, and they give the block to Bryce Curtin of WPI. That would effectively end the game, as there would be 1 second left at the end of all those antics, and the final score was 24-21 in favor of WPI. Hunter Carey, 24 rushes, 111 yards for WPI. He had 1 rushing touchdown. James Cahoon for Bridgewater State, 25 for 33, 259 yards, 1 passing touchdown. And by the way, the WPI special teams with that field goal block, we have to take our hats off to them one more time there. We'll stay with our Friday night games here and finish up Region 1 with SUNY Maritime at Mass Maritime. It was the Chowder Bowl, and it was 7-0 Mass Maritime at the half, so we'll go to the third quarter, 7:18 left. SUNY Maritime's Pat Quinn gets his 1-yard touchdown pass from Steven Stassi to make it 7-7. Later on, you'll see defensively, the way this game was going essentially, as Mass Maritime is picked off. Mark Murphy's pass was picked off by Aiden Griffin, and that gives SUNY Maritime the ball back. Eventually, fourth quarter, 5:26 left. Tate Nider, gets a 6-yard touchdown run for SUNY Maritime. The Privateers up 14-7. Mass Maritime would punt it away with 3:14 left because they could not convert, but SUNY Maritime would be able to put away the game here on a 3rd and 1 with this 3-yard rush by Devin Klein to end the game effectively and win it in a low-scoring affair, 14-7. This was the 15th annual Chowder Bowl, and the offense of SUNY Maritime had 11 plays and 92 yards in that game-winning drive in the fourth quarter with 5:26 left, as you saw. JB, hope you like your chowder. But nonetheless, I like the chowder and a whole lot more there as we got some great football in Region 1. Tell us about some more.
I love the pseudo Boston accent there with the Chowder Bowl. Really well done. Yeah, I mean, there was some interesting, cup, chowder types of games going on in Region 1. We had Western New England blanking Westfield State for the President's Cup. I believe well, I guess we'll get to that one in Region 2. We had another cup game, but elsewhere, UNE stays at 2-0 with a win over Plymouth State. I think the Coast Guard scored 12 touchdowns in this 93-24 blowout. It got national attention. Our friends at Reddit CFB were posting about it. Just a ridiculous amount of scoring happening. I don't know what's going on with Anna Maria there. That's a rough one. One of the highest scoring games of the last 5 or 6 seasons. So congrats to the Bears. Hopefully they don't need those points down the road because, man, that was something else. Kings very quietly continues to win. They only had 1 loss in the MAC last season, Frank, to Del Val. Are they a dark horse? I don't know. We'll see. 42-10 win. Pretty impressive. Widener wins over FDU Forum. Lev-Val gets one of these weather delay things. They called the game before Stevenson had a chance to try to tie it up. I know their coach, Ned Huddle, wasn't thrilled about it. It is what it is. The Mariners, on the flip side, though, were leading 30-13 over Gallaudet, and when that game was called in the third quarter, but apparently enough time had expired where they were like, okay, you get the win. So good for them. Union, the Dutchman Chargers, or whatever we want to call them, still unbeaten. They won big over Worcester State. And then elsewhere, we had Eastern winning their first ever game. I watched that on Saturday night. The crowd at Franklin Field was fired up. It was an exciting game, back and forth. Came down to the end, and very happy for the Eagles that they get their first program win.
Okay, in Region 2, here is a game that just, I can't even believe how this thing played out ultimately. It is Susquehanna at Brockport. And we'll go to the second quarter in this game. 5:43 left. It's Nate Widgeon with the 30-yard field goal for Brockport. It was 3-0 at that point, but just before halftime, Christian Collis gets his own 32-yard field goal to tie things up at halftime, 3 apiece, as Susquehanna and Brockport fought hard here. The third quarter was scoreless. We'll go to the fourth quarter, 8:45 left, and Ryan Jafarjian gets this punt block, and it's going to go for a safety. So Brockport gets the lead with this safety, 5-3. Move forward. It looks like Susquehanna is able to take the lead from the 3-yard line. Christian Colas with the 21-yard field goal is blocked, and blocked this time by Vincent Daviero. And so it's thwarted the chance to take the lead there for Susquehanna, but Brockport was forced to punt with 1:44 left, and Susquehanna would have one last chance. First, 4th and 8 near midfield. Josh Ehrlich complete to Jacob Erb here for 19 yards. Then, 3rd and 9 from midfield. Here you go.
16 seconds to go. Ehrlich wants to get it in a field goal range. Lets it go deep. House, he's got it in the end zone. No, he dropped it. He had it for a split second. What's it called? One side says they have it. The other side says it's a fumble.
5 seconds left. They call it good. You can see from this angle, indeed, it was a good catch. My goodness. Christian Collis out for the field goal attempt from 18 yards. It's good. Susquehanna wins 6-5 in a game with 0 touchdowns, 3 field goals, and a safety as your scoring, folks. And Josh Ehrlich with that 49-yard Hail Mary pass to the Brockport 1 with 5 seconds remaining is kind of the statistical highlight we have to present to you, as we'll talk about Christian Collis' 2 field goals as well. Let's go to Salisbury at Muhlenberg, and this game started out a little bit interesting as Salisbury's Bebe Sayet, I believe is the pronunciation, gets a 56-yard touchdown run to make it 7-0 Gulls. Seagulls, we'll call them, in fact. In the second quarter, 13:41 left. Salisbury's Ronald Clark gets his 1-yard run. It's 14-0 Salisbury. They're running over Muhlenberg at first here, but with 2 minutes left second quarter, Joe Rapetti gets a 9-yard touchdown run. That equalizes the game at that point at 14 apiece. Then, 22 seconds left second quarter, Christopher Ard, a 52-yard touchdown pass from Joe Rapetti. It makes it 21-14 Muhlenberg at halftime. We'll fast forward to the end of the third quarter as Pelton Esnaso gets a 33-yard touchdown pass from Joe Rapetti. It's 27-17 Muhlenberg. And then here's a big defensive play to really set things up, or end things essentially for Muhlenberg. Ben Hutchins sacked for a 4-yard loss and a safety here. 29-17 with 4:08 left. Final score of the game, 29-17 Muhlenberg. Muhlenberg scored 21 unanswered points in that second quarter, as you saw. Joe Rapetti, 336 total yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown for Muhlenberg. We'll finish out Region 2 with Wilkes at RPI. 2 minutes 43 seconds into the game is Hayden Faraday getting a 48-yard touchdown pass from Jake Kazanowski for a 7-0 lead for RPI. 8 minutes later, though, Wilkes equalizes as Jason Dean gets a 6-yard touchdown pass from Isaiah Rodriguez, 7 apiece at that point. We'll go later on into the game as Wilkes is trying to drive, but it's Isaiah Rodriguez completing a pass to Justin Moore, but fumbling it did Moore, and Diego Fernandez recovers the fumble ultimately for RPI. One play later, here's Sterling Walker-Sutton getting a 41-yard touchdown pass from Jake Kazanowski, 14-7 with 1 minute left in the first quarter in favor of RPI. In the second quarter, Jake Kazanowski gets his 1-yard touchdown run, 21-7 RPI. They'd never look back, 38-14 for the Engineers. RPI's offense outgained Wilkes 389 yards to 167 yards. Jake Kazanowski for RPI 16 for 24, 236 yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. Region 2 a little bit quiet there this week, ultimately, JB. But, a lot of stuff going on. That Salisbury-Muhlenberg game, that Susquehanna-Brockport game, both of those games are important games for the entire setup of the region when you come to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's going to come down to potentially strength of schedule, who wins their respective conferences, and if they don't, do they get any Pool C help? It's going to be hard for anyone from Region 1 or 2 to maybe get a look in Pool C this year, so every win you can possibly get is huge. Otherwise, elsewhere in Region 2, Carnegie Mellon with another shutout. St. Lawrence, hopefully I'm pointing in the right direction. The Hoffman Cup winners, 14-7 over Norwich. We did have a postponement, the TCNJ Franklin and Marshall game, just too much lightning. They're going to push that game to, I think, Thursday, September 21st. So another random Thursday night game happening next week, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Elsewhere, some blowouts with Alfred 34-0, Fisher 62-17, Ursinus 30-14, Grove City wins big 43-27. Utica beats Moravian in the Believe Bowl. Hartwick takes down Keystone. Washington Jeff wins big. Westminster gets their first win of the season. Hobart gets a little revenge on Morrisville after losing to them last year. Apprentice clips Buff State. Rowan with an impressive 49-point win there, 49-28 over McDaniel. And then Montclair gets on the board, first game of the season with a 32-21 win over Gettysburg. And Frank, one of the more interesting games, Hopkins and Christopher Newport, Kind of coming down in the late in the fourth quarter. A great game between both teams, a night game. I watched most of it. Hopkins struggled a little bit. This captain's team certainly one to keep an eye out in the end, Jack. I wouldn't say that it's Salisbury's championship just to snap up there. And then obviously Rochester with a big win over Alfred State out in Western New York. Their offensive line did such a nice job. I think they got the D3 Football Team of the Week nod for this week. So congratulations to the Yellow Jackets.
With respect to Hopkins, they lost points in my ballot actually based on that performance because it was one that I think they should have dominated a little bit better, but we'll see where it goes. And ultimately, I am keeping my eye on Christopher Newport, the captains. We'll see what they're able to do later on as the season progresses. Yes, sir. Let's go to Region 3 and the game I attended, which was Mary Hardin-Baylor at Trinity. Could Trinity get the monkey off their back, essentially, as the Crusaders look to make it 3 straight in 3 years against Trinity? Well, 6 minutes into the game, it's Ethan Boyer, not Boyle, it's Boyer, with a 23-yard touchdown pass from Tucker Horn to make it 7-0 in favor of Trinity. Then, about 8 minutes later, Legend Grigsby, just a speedster when he gets the chance, 46 yards on this touchdown run, makes it 14-0 in favor of the Tigers. 13:36 left second quarter, though. Kenneth Cormier Jr. gets heard from on the Mary Hardin-Baylor side with this 3-yard touchdown run, 14-7 Trinity leads. 2 minutes later, though, Cole Monago gets the 28-yard touchdown pass from Tucker Horn. It's 21-7 in favor of Trinity. Later on in the half, look at this Caleb Harmel interception, and they wouldn't get points out of it, but it stopped another threat by UMHB ultimately, and the halftime score was 21-16 Trinity. After halftime, take a look at this one. Boy, it's Caleb Harmel again, and this time, what a leap he had to get the interception. Ultimately, it would lead to this attempt at a field goal that would clang off the upright after 5 chances within basically the goal-to-go situation for Trinity. So the defense takes it into their own hands here. Look at this 3rd and 5 play, a big sack for TJ Scannell, and the next play ultimately is a punt block. This is Cade Robson with that punt block. The next play from offense for Trinity, well, this time Caleb Crawford with the fingertip catch from Tucker Horn, 28-16 on the 14-yard touchdown pass in favor of the Tigers. And then at the end of the game, 54 seconds left, Winston Hutchison gets his 17-yard touchdown run. The icing on the cake, we called it, 35-16 Trinity. The Tigers win the game by that score. Tucker Horn, 227 total yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Caleb Harmel, 2 interceptions, and Isaac Faye for UMHB, 18 for 30, 231 yards and 1 passing touchdown on a night that really wasn't horrible for him, except for those 2 interceptions, ultimately, that he kind of paid for in his team at some point, maybe not immediately, but eventually it affected field position in certain drives. Let's go next to Birmingham Southern at Huntingdon. And this one surprised a lot of people as 32 seconds left second quarter, we were scoreless until Tyler England gets his 21-yard touchdown pass from Kahari McReynolds to make it 7-0 in favor of Huntingdon. Third quarter, 4:53 left. Here's a safety because of this punt botch situation here by Birmingham Southern. So Huntingdon goes up 9-0 here. They were at the 33-yard line, and look at that thing go, basically, for that 9-0 safety score. Fourth quarter, 13:57 left. Troy Garner, a 1-yard touchdown run, makes it 16-0 after that 12-play drive. That was right after the safety, and that was the final score, 16-0 Huntingdon. Huntingdon's defense held Birmingham Southern to just 77 total yards. They had 2 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and an interception. Kahari McReynolds, 163 yards. That's total yards and 1 passing touchdown on the evening. Finally, in Region 3, it was Hendricks at East Texas Baptist. Second quarter, 10:29 left. Cameron Daniels gets a 55-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. The old scoop and score makes it 17-0 Hendricks. Later on in that second quarter, 44 seconds left, Christian Gaddison, a 19-yard touchdown pass from Jacob Buniff. It's 31-7 Hendricks at halftime. Third quarter, though, everything turns around. Zay Thomas with a 10-yard touchdown pass from Cornelius Banks makes it 31-14. 4 minutes later, Christian Booker with this 15-yard pick 6 for East Texas Baptist makes it 31-21 in favor of Hendricks. 1:03 left third quarter. It's Trajan Giannis Wilcox with the 17-yard touchdown pass from Cornelius Banks. They are now within 3 points, 31-28. That was a 24-point lead, trimmed to 3. Well, fourth quarter, 11:23 left. Jaden Thomas gets his 29-yard touchdown run. East Texas Baptist has now taken the lead, 35-31. It will later be extended with 2:55 left as Pedro Cavazos gets his 40-yard field goal, 38-31 East Texas Baptist. 23 seconds left, and it's a touchdown by Christian Gaddison. The 19-yard touchdown pass from Jacob Buniff. It's 38-37. They go for 2, and it is no good. But wait a minute. Let's try the onside kick, they say, and Hendricks recovers the onside kick. So they have a chance here, and first they go for a pass downfield, 34 yards, complete, 8 seconds left. Slade Stanton goes out for a 39-yard field goal attempt.
Snap good, hold good, kick is up, and it is
No
good. Wide right.
Holy smokes.
Tigers will have 3 seconds to get in the best formation in football.
And it's no good. What a crushing blow to Hendricks to not only lose that 24-point lead, but then to lose the game on a missed field goal opportunity after missing a 2-point conversion all over the place. Ouch. 38-37. East Texas Baptist trailed 31-7 at the half. Jacob Buniff, 33 for 53, 412 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Cornelius Banks from East Texas Baptist, 317 total yards, 2 passing, and 1 rushing touchdown. I'm out of breath. It's your turn to talk about Region 3.
Well, there isn't a whole lot to talk about in Region 3, to be honest, Frank, because there were a lot of blowouts. There was a loss to a D2 school. There was a win over a, wait for it, NAIA school. Got that one right, finally. But mostly lopsided scores, with the exception of Rhodes hanging on to win 19-17 over Austin. But what jumps out to me, Frank, look at Barry. The second week in a row, they scored they scored 67 in week 1. Now they're scoring 70 in week 2. So I'm not a math major, but what's that, 68.5 points per game that they're putting out there? I think the Vikings are putting the SAA and the rest of the Southeast on notice that the Vikings are back, and they are a serious business, and they're a serious contender in that SAA. I know the focus of this weekend was on Trinity and UMHB, but guess what? There is a former champ, 5-time former champ, that's back there saying, we're back, baby. Let's keep an eye on those Vikings.
Let's round things out here in regions 4 through 6, and we'll start with Wartburg at Bethel. 1:14 left in the first quarter. It's Thor Makestad with a 12-yard touchdown pass from Niall McLaughlin. It's 6-0 in favor of Wartburg. But watch this, the extra point blocked by Jacob Holman, and it's taken the other way. It's 6-2 actually, still in favor of Wartburg. A minute 14 left. We'll go to the third quarter in this game. Drake George from Wartburg gets his 52-yard touchdown pass from Niall McLaughlin. It's 13-2 in favor of Wartburg. And then take a look here as the defense steps up. First, Alex Call loses the ball and is recovered by Kanan Morris for Wartburg. In the fourth quarter, it's now McLaughlin intercepted by Devin Williams here. But the next play, it's Alex Call again fumbling the ball. This time, Jordan Downing with the recovery. So those 2 big fumbles ultimately by Bethel just thwart their opportunities. Final score, 16-2, Wartburg over Bethel. Niall McLaughlin, 17 for 32, 207 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Bethel's defensive special teams, though, had 3 interceptions, but it's 16-2 final. Kind of a pedestrian score for a team that's number 3, a lot of people think, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Next up, Hardin-Simmons at UW-La Crosse. We got Wisconsin all over the place coming up for you, folks. I'm going to warn you right now. If you don't like Wisconsin, probably not the show for you to be watching right now at this point. First quarter, 3:45 left. Jack Struder gets a 75-yard touchdown pass from Kaiser Helterbrand to make it 14-7 in favor of La Crosse. But 5 seconds left first quarter, Colton Marshall, 2-yard touchdown run for Hardin-Simmons ties up the game, 14-14. Second quarter, 11:38 left. La Crosse's Kaiser Helterbrand with a 5-yard touchdown run. It's 21-14 in favor of UWL. We'll go to the third quarter. Hardin-Simmons Noah Garcia, a 56-yard touchdown run, ties the game at 21 apiece. And then 7 minutes later, 4 minutes left, Colton Marshall, a 1-yard touchdown run, gives Hardin Simmons the lead, 28-21. Let's go to the defense, though, shown in the fourth quarter. First, with 11:06 left, it's Kelterbrand getting intercepted by DeMarcus Coleman here for Hardin Simmons. Then with 4 minutes left, Kelterbrand rushes up the middle and gets 11 yards to the Hardin Simmons 5, but fumbles the ball. Torrey Pullen is the one that forces the fumble and lands on it. And then with 1:13 left, Kelterbrand passes the ball, and it's intercepted by Cade Michna to make it Hardin Simmons game 28-21 in favor of Hardin Simmons. 229 rushing yards for that Hardin Simmons offense, 4 rushing touchdowns. Kelterbrand, 303 total yards, 2 passing and 1 rushing touchdown, and 2 interceptions, so those costly interceptions at the end of the game. We'll move now to St. John's at UW-Whitewater and start with, in the second quarter, 11:38 left. It's Drake Martin with this 45-yard touchdown pass from Jason Sanity to make it 14-7 in favor of Whitewater. That's because Alec Ogden had left the game with an injury, and so it's Sanity's team right now, looks like, for Whitewater. 2 minutes later, Whitewater's Tamir Thomas gets this 59-yard touchdown run to give the Warhawks a 21-7 lead. However, St. John's will be back here. 4 seconds left in the first half. Alex Larson, a 9-yard touchdown pass from Aaron Severson, makes it a 21-21 halftime score. Third quarter, 5 minutes into it, Dylan Wheeler, a 29-yard touchdown pass from Severson. It's 28-21, St. John's with the lead. 5 minutes later, Stephen Hine, a 35-yard touchdown pass from Sanity, makes it 28-28. And then 31 seconds left third quarter, it becomes the Tamir Thomas show. Here, a 10-yard touchdown run makes it 35-28 in favor of Whitewater. Fourth quarter, 7:39 left. Tamir Thomas with a 15-yard touchdown pass from Sinetti makes it 42-28 Warhawks. And then 3 minutes left fourth quarter. It's a 9-yard touchdown run by Tamir Thomas, 56-28 in favor of the Warhawks, and that's the final score. Ogden leaving the game with the injury, as we said. Tamir Thomas, 17 rushes, 179 yards, 4 total touchdowns, including those 3 rushing touchdowns you see. Severson, so 27 for 45, 261 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and 1 interception. Finally, UW-Oshkosh at Wheaton. We'll take you to the 5-minute mark of this game, and Trey Tetzlaff gets a 15-yard touchdown pass from Kobe Berghammer to make it 6-0 in favor of Oshkosh. Second quarter, 42 seconds into it, Christian Karstens with this 5-yard touchdown run makes it 14-9 in favor of Wheaton. So they flipped the score around, and the halftime score was 17-9 in favor of Wheaton. 5 minutes into the third quarter, it's Clayton Schwab with the 15-yard touchdown pass from Berghammer to make it 17-15, still Wheaton's lead as they missed the 2-point conversion. Christian Karstens, though, responds with a 2-yard touchdown run 4 minutes into the fourth quarter to give Wheaton a 23-15 lead. They missed their extra point there. Doug Burson for Oshkosh 2 minutes later gets this 13-yard touchdown run, but they missed the 2-point conversion, does Oshkosh. So it's Wheaton's lead still, 23-21. Then 4 minutes left in the old standard, Giovanni Weeks with the 4-yard touchdown run for Wheaton makes it 30-21. And we'll go later on as Kobe Berghammer, trying to get his team back into this game, is intercepted by Max Wilson with 2:42 left, and Wheaton was able to run out the clock the rest of the way to win the game 30-21. Ben Thorson, 22 for 29, 254 yards, a rushing touchdown, and Kobe Berghammer for Oshkosh, 15 for 28, 188 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. JB, Wisconsin was some mixed bag in this whole weekend here, as Whitewater, big winner, La Crosse and Oshkosh, not so much. But tell us a lot more about Regions 4 through 6.
Well, there's like 42 other games to cover here, so I'll do my best. There were a couple of cross-regional opportunities for some of the ranked teams like Aurora, Linfield, and River Falls. They all went to different regions of the country to play this weekend with some mixed results. The Linfield 28-14 decision, Frank, was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought the Wildcats might have had a wider margin of victory there, but River Falls taking care of business in Ohio. Another score that jumped out to me, Frank, I think this guy Josh Taylor of Mount St. Joseph, he's second in the nation now with 11 passing touchdowns. Could be somebody to keep an eye on. They keep winning and doing pretty well. Worcester outlasts Olivet. And then Defiance with kind of a surprising win, in my opinion, 34-17 over Adrian. On the next slide, we have a bunch more games, including Oberlin getting a win here. I know the Yeos have been struggling for a while, so that's my cousin Chris's alma mater, so congrats to them on breaking that streak. I'm sure they were happy to celebrate that one. Carleton beats Pomona Pitzer 45-24. I thought that was interesting, another kind of cross-regional West Coast and Midwest game. Elsewhere, down at the bottom, we talked a little bit about this earlier on, the St. Norbert Stevens Point Spud Bowl game, which had that exciting finish. Maybe not if you were, a St. Norbert fan, but credit to the Pointers. They got the win in the Spud Bowl. Stout came up a little short against NAIA Dickinson State by 3 points. So another tough outing for a Wisconsin team. But Lake Forest wins their rivalry game over the Blue Boys of Illinois College. And then out in Oregon, Whitworth doing a number on an NAIA team in Eastern Oregon. One of their receivers, I think his last name is spelled K-U-K, or maybe it's Cook, is how it's pronounced, had 3 receiving touchdowns on a 42-28 win over there. Elsewhere, Rose-Hulman outlasts Trine. That was yet another game that I thought I might get right, but one of the Trine offensive linemen, Frank, they had the ball down at the 18-yard line. He decides to slam his opponent to the ground 15 yards, and all of a sudden a makeable field goal to win the game turns into about a 49-yard attempt. Guess what happened? Rose-Hulman wins 30-28 on the missed field goal because of the personal foul. And then, as you can see over there, that beautiful donut trophy, Carroll wins it easily 51-7 over Wisconsin Lutheran. And there was actually one red-eye game. I didn't read the schedule correctly, I guess, but George Fox beat Pacific 14-9. I caught that one late night. I think I actually watched over 12 hours of D3 football on Saturday, Frank. After taking 2 kids to college, I was exhausted. My wife was exhausted. She watched Netflix all day. I watched football all day. It was glorious, and what a fun weekend of D3 football.
I joined you for a lot of that because I had an afternoon free pretty much, and I was in Starbucks all day watching Division III, that Endicott Ithaca game, and a bunch of other ones.
And I will say that for the first time, it's been a while, because obviously since we don't have like the national television separation, all the games were really nicely spread out. We kind of lucked out. That doesn't always happen. There's usually a ton of 12 and then 1 and then 2 games that sort of overlap. This time, though, we actually had some separation between the big games, and that made it a much more enjoyable watch throughout the entire day.
That was an enjoyable week 2 of the Division III college football season of 2023. JB, that was a lot. We got to move along here a little bit, but we got to talk about the JB's MVPs, and go right ahead. Tell us about these 3 handsome lads, as they would say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll start over on the right-hand side, since we've already talked about him a good amount. Caleb Harmel with those 2 interceptions in the Trinity win over UMHB. Just fantastic athleticism. There's a reason he's a preseason and regular season first-team All-American. Just an awesome job there. So congratulations to the Tigers. They have a big conference kickoff against Birmingham Southern this weekend, which actually just got moved down to 11 a.m., so might be one of the first games of the day on Saturday. Bryce Curtin, one of the guys, probably just been banging away there with the Engineers over the years. He's a senior, made the play of the game. He was the guy who got his hand on the ball and blocked it to save the win for them. So he's my special teams MVP of this week. And then finally, certainly not last for least, but Ben Thorson is an interesting guy here, Frank, because he's from Wheaton. He went to, I think, a prep school in Wheaton, Illinois. Probably, grew up watching the Thunder and was a backup pretty much his whole college career until last Saturday. And one of the biggest questions we had going into this game was what's going to happen to quarterback. Well, I tell you what, he completed almost all of his passes, 22 for 29, very efficient day, had a rushing touchdown, ran the offense. And when there was that point in time in the fourth quarter where it looked like the Titans, could have either scored and tied it up. I mean, I think they missed the 2 points, so they were still down. But the next drive, he just methodically led that offense down the field. No issues, no problem, did not wilt from the pressure. He looks like the real deal, Frank. And so this Thorson guy got my MVP.
And Well, you need some more MVPs in terms of most valuable picks because
picks.
right now you are down 5 games to me, 22 versus 17 in the wins. And so, JB, get to work, get studying up here because you need to come back here. The fans like it when you beat me.
I need to talk to some of my buddies out in Massachusetts. Like, run some algorithms for me. Come on, guys. Let's help me out here, Bubna.
Well, listen, JB, we got a lot of things here. First off, we've got it's 15 years in a couple weeks for us. And we want to start talking about some stories and some storylines from these 15 years that kind of have set the standard or stage for this show to be as long as, or around as long as it's been here. 15 years is not a short period of time. Video started about, 5-6 years ago for us, ultimately.
2017, yeah.
Yep, so 6 years ago. And that was kind of a game changer for us, obviously. But, one of the stories that we remember and we're going to talk about on Friday was obviously the death of Evan Hansen, who was the linebacker at Wabash. And we're going to have his father, Chuck Hansen, joining us on Friday live to talk about what has happened since that point in time when Evan took his own life. They're not shy to discuss the fact that that is what happened. The developments related to CTE and Evan. I talked to Chuck at length on Monday, and it's one of those stories where you have a family that lost a son to an injury that was at least part of the death cause when you've got to think about it, probably at the end of the day. That led to the suicide potentially, that still want to see the game of football played and just want to see it done in a safe manner. They still love the game of football. And it's something that kind of touches me to hear him talk about it. And I hope you'll join us on Friday during our live show to hear more of the story of what has happened since Evan passed away 5 years ago, September 10th. That will be an interesting discussion. Also joining us on Friday will be Cole Burgess, the wide receiver from Cortland. He'll be live on the show as our first guest on Friday morning. So you won't want to miss that. Cole grew up not very far from where I am here in Balsam Spa. He grew up in Greenwich, New York. And he is just a wonderkin when it comes to receiving out there. Not the biggest guy in the field by any stretch of the imagination, but plays with a lot of heart. And that's why they're contenders here again in 2023. Yesterday in the village of Balsam Spa, we had our 9/11 ceremony, and you may have seen our Twitter activity showing the Ed Zaloom discussion from 2008, which was our first season, the first couple weeks into the show. And Ed Zaloom joined us to talk about various things WPI football based because he was the head coach at that point. But you probably remember the discussion that we had about the WPI at Union game just, 4 days later, and playing that game. And so go to Twitter to find that if you don't remember that discussion. But I got a chance as mayor of the Village of Balsam Spa to address our community about 9/11 last night, or on Monday night by the time you're watching this. And a number of our high school football team, JV and varsity players, joined us. And I got to share a story as well about a little bit of a surprising development that occurred at Trinity on Saturday, and something that kind of reminded me that we are a full 22 years past 9/11, and not many people that are in college or below were even alive at that point for 9/11. Here's my discussion or my speech, and hopefully you can, take some ideas from it about things we need to do to keep that whole mantra of never forget real. Welcome, everyone. First off, I want to thank the football team for coming tonight. Jason On's been their coach. I reached out to him on Friday night. We got to deliver back Thursday night, Saratoga. They'll be playing. We got to get out there and support them as much as they're supporting us here tonight. It's always tough to come up with a new speech every year for this. This is year 22. Obviously, I haven't been in this position all 22 of them, but we've had to discuss this year in and year out on 9/11. And on Saturday night, I was down in San Antonio, Texas, covering a Division III college football game.
And I'm trying to think about, what am I going to say? What am I going to do on Monday? I really don't know. And all of a sudden they say, please rise for the national anthem. There was only one problem. The teams weren't on the field. We were basically just the stands honoring the flag, honoring the national anthem. I'm scratching my head a little bit after it's done, and I'm realizing, you know, this is the 22nd anniversary. 22 is the age of a college senior. Essentially, almost everybody in schools all the way up to college wasn't born when 9/11 occurred in 2001. History is deemed to repeat itself if we do not remember and take notice of how we got into a certain position in the first place. That's one of the reasons, actually, I was thinking of asking the football team here a day earlier, and it made a lot more sense once Saturday happened, because we have to remember what happened on 2001's version of 9/11. We have to keep teaching the youth why it's important, because I wish that none of you have to know the feeling of going to an airport and getting trapped at that airport. I hope you'll never have the feeling of going into a nearby bar to watch TVs, seeing people literally falling down in buildings because somebody hated us enough to fly airplanes to the buildings, and to see a building like the Pentagon on fire with people dead, and something else happening in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, because a group of people that didn't know where they were going to be going said, to heck with it. And they overtook the plane, crashed it, but saved a lot of people in the process. I hope you'll never have to know, coming back into New York City that night, looking around at smoke plumes, going to the firehouse where your friends were, and asking, oh, where are they? Are they here? Well, no, they're down there, was the response. And I'm like, oh, down the other side of the house? No, down there. And feeling your heart drop. That's my 9/11, and that was pretty simple compared to some people's 9/11. A lot of people lost a lot more than I did, and my family and my friends. A lot paid the ultimate price. Nearly 3,000 people perished, ultimately. We cannot forget what happened on 9/11 and why it happened, because if we do, it could happen again. That is why this memorial is so important, why Mayor Romano put so much energy into making this happen. These are the last two pieces of metal that were available at JFK's hangar back in the year that we got it, a number of years ago. This was it in 2017. That's it. It was almost like it was destined to be that Ballston Spa would receive these pieces of rail. Never forget. I know it's not easy to say that if you weren't around for it in the first place, but it is our job as the adults to keep teaching so that you don't forget what happened. And then it'll be your job later on to teach your kids the same thing. Never forget. It is so important for our future, for all these folks here that lost friends, lost brothers, to pay honor to what they lost and what happened that day. Thank you for coming out and for remembering with us. And once again, please never forget.
Okay, so there is that, and JB, always an honor to get to speak about that event, because I was in New York City during it, as you know, and while it still sucks thinking about it, and having some of the flashbacks to then, it is something that we can't forget, but in any way, shape, or form. What are your overall thoughts? Another defining moment of our show. That was one of our biggest defining moments to start this show. Was the Ed Zaloom discussion back in 2008. That kind of made us realize the feedback we got from that discussion hey, people are listening or watching or wanting this content, and it was an important discussion. Thanks to Coach Zaloom all these years later for helping us understand the value of the show. But what are your thoughts?
No, I mean, obviously, I guess this is our generation's, the date that will go down in infamy, sort of a thing. I mean, it was D-Day, or for our, the greatest generation, and so on. There was, Vietnam and other things for our parents, but this was for, guys our age. It was a seminal moment, something that we all know exactly where we were and what was going on, when that event happened. It doesn't, for at least folks like us who were originally from the East Coast, and even others who live all across the country, they have it's one or two people removed that were affected by this. I mean, one of my former teammates from Hobart, he was a senior when I was a freshman, so we weren't very close, but he was in the tower, and he unfortunately perished along with close to 3,000 others, and it's just hard to believe that that happened, and obviously a lot of change came from it. When the Zoomer gave his speech, it was still relatively fresh in our mind. Our country was going through a major financial crisis in that fall of 2008, as you may recall. I was on the front lines for that, and just trying to hang on to my job and everything else back then, and kind of crazy times. But that's sort of I think part of what Zoomer's message is that life will throw both good and terrible things at you, and what we need to do in the hard times is really come together as communities, as families, as friends, and all that to help each other through the tough stuff. So I love that speech. I actually enjoy listening to it every year. It never gets old, and I think that's kind of what we have to hang on to.
Amen to that. Let's talk football before we leave here. What did we learn in week 2? Briefly, I'm going to say that for the second straight week, Trinity is the real deal in terms of a national threat, but they've got a lot in front of them still. You pointed out Barry with that 68.5 points per game that they've scored. Maybe it's not against the same competition, but still, we know they can put up points. And the fact that Barry beat Huntingdon the way they did, and Huntingdon beat Birmingham Southern a week later, should tell you that Barry is something to be reckoned with this season. But first things first, Birmingham Southern is next on Trinity's schedule. What did you learn from this week's action?
Well, I think it's not necessarily what I learned. It's the old not so fast, because the laws of syllogism that we like to talk about on this show. I mean, yeah, sure, Whitewater won big over St. John's. Does that mean that they're twice as good as Trinity, or does that mean that maybe St. John's was overrated and Trinity just didn't have their best game? Is Mary Hardin-Baylor going to fall out of the sort of national prominence if they lose this weekend to Whitewater? We don't know yet. There's still going to be a lot to be figured out. This weekend there aren't as many big matchups, but there are a couple, like the Whitewater UMHB game down there in Texas. But really where we're starting to gravitate towards, which is the path to the playoffs, is the conference play. You win and you're in. And then after that, everything sort of shakes out the way it will. So I think we don't want to overreact a little bit. Let's just wait and see how the next couple weeks goes. But there were certainly some impressive debuts, Wheaton being one of them. I think that's partially why I was like, this Thorson guy, they're in great shape. And like you said, Frank, North Central maybe wants to look out. I mean, they weren't in action last weekend. Neither was Mount Union. They had an early bye week. But there are some contenders out there that are going to be chasing these guys, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
The other thing I learned, honestly, it's in the same game. Mary Hardin-Baylor, I honestly think they're not toast yet. Some people may find it interesting I was saying that, but it becomes a question, is it size and speed, or is it youth and inexperience, or a combination therein that you need to point to? I think it's youth and inexperience more so than a lack of strength and speed. And so I have a feeling this Wisconsin-Whitewater game that they're going to play on Saturday is going to be very, very close. It's going to be in Belton. It's never easy to play in Belton. The weather will be reasonable at around 84 degrees, it looks like. But I just had this funny feeling that this wacky world that we're in of Division III football is not going to just play out this hand where, it's going to be an easy Whitewater win. I think Mary Hardin Baylor has a chance this coming week. We'll talk more about that on Friday. JB, last thoughts on week 2 before we say goodbye for this show or this episode of the show.
Well, nothing really extra on week 2. I do think, though, eventually we need to start putting you back on the spot with your top 25 ballot, because it's been a couple weeks now. We did put out a preseason top 25 poll. We've seen a few games, so maybe we should start doing a little quarterly check-in and see how things are going. I feel good about our picks of River Falls. They've now moved up into the D3Football.com top 10. Muhlenberg is now 25. We had them in our preseason poll, by the way, in the top 25, just saying, So we called that one, so I felt good about that. But we'll have to wait and see, because sometimes there's upsets. I mean, your Sinus has gotten the Mules a couple of years running now. Eventually those two guys are going to play, and we'll have to see what happens. But conference play is starting to shift. We get one last sort of big weekend as far as out-of-conference games, and then we'll see where things go from there.
Sure enough, I'll get that ballot polished off and ready to go for the next go-around, perhaps, or next Tuesday. We'll see which. But nonetheless, folks, we got a busy Friday show coming up here. We do want you to join us live at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That is what we do here. And we'll take you all the way through things. And guess what? I'm going to be going to 3 games, Friday, Saturday, and Saturday. I will tell you a little bit more about that, but the theme of it will be a New York state of mind. And we'll tell you more about what that all means as the week progresses. So until Friday, JB, have a great week. Folks, we'll see you soon. Lots to do, lots to talk about coming up. But in the meantime, be safe and have a great week as we march toward week 3 of the Division III college football season.